Good afternoon. We'll call this business meeting to order. Today, the committee will consider two bills, S-227, Savannah's Act, and S-982, Not Invisible Act of 2019. Two amendments have been timely filed, one for S-227 and the other for S-982. Last Congress, the committee, along with the full Senate, passed Savannah's Act. On January 25, 2019, Senators Murkowski and Cortez Masto introduced S-227, Savannah's Act. This bill has 23 co-sponsors, including myself and Senators Baldwin, Cantwell, Capito, Coons, Kramer, Daines, Gillibrand, Harris, Heinrich, Klobuchar, McSally, Merkley, Murray, Rosen, Schatz, Sinema, Smith, Sullivan, Tester, Tillis, Udall, and Wyden. On June 19, 2019, a legislative hearing was held on the bill where the administration and two tribal witnesses provided testimony. All three witnesses testified in support of the goals of the bill, but requested further changes to the legislation. S-227 intends to improve the response when addressing missing and murdered Native Americans by improving access to federal criminal databases, requiring training and mandating data collection, and directing the U.S. Attorney General to review, revise, and develop law enforcement and justice guidelines. The bill is named for Savannah LaFontaine Graywind. She was a Spirit Lake pregnant woman from North Dakota who disappeared on August 19, 2017. Her body was found 8 days later north of Fargo, North Dakota in the Red River. While Savannah's tragic death did not go unnoticed, we must remember that many Native people go missing each year, with many of those cases not being solved. Senators Murkowski and Cortez Masto have been working on edits to the bill, and these edits are included in the substitute amendment that the committee will consider today. The amendment, SIL 19C03, filed by Senator Murkowski and Senator Cortez Masto, reflect those changes. The main changes found in the substitute amendment will expand the requirement for the creation of law enforcement guidelines to apply to all U.S. attorneys, not just those with Indian country jurisdiction, add a consultation with tribal organizations and urban Indian organizations, require the U.S. Attorney General to publicly list the law enforcement agencies in compliance with the guidelines, and replace the affirmative preference subsections with an implementation and incentive sections providing grant authority to law enforcement organizations. The other bill on today's docket, the Not Invisible Act, also addresses the crisis of missing, murdered, and trafficked Native Americans. On April 2, 2019, Senators Cortez Masto, Murkowski, and Tester introduced S-982, the Not Invisible Act of 2019. The following senators have been added as co-sponsors: Daines, Moran, Rosen, Smith, and Sullivan. The bill received a legislative hearing on June 9, 2019, when officials from the Department of Justice and Interior and two tribal leaders testified on the bill. The purpose of the Not Invisible Act of 2019 is to combat the crisis in Indian country as it relates to the murdered, trafficking, and disappearance of indigenous women in and around Indian country. The Not Invisible Act of 2019 coordinates prevention efforts between the Secretary of the Interior, outside organizations, and other federal agencies as appropriate. The bill also creates a joint advisory committee on reducing violent crime against Native people within the Department of the Interior. The recommendations made by the Joint Advisory Commission will help to combat violent crimes committed against Indians and on tribal lands by more effectively identifying, reporting, and responding to cases of a missing, trafficked, or murdered Indian woman, child, or man. The amendment, SIL 19C04, in the nature of a substitute amendment, was timely filed by Senators Cortez Masto and Senator Murkowski. And I will turn now to I'll turn to her in a minute to speak regarding her amendment. The changes made to the bill in the substitute amendment requires the coordinator to issue annual reports to Congress, changes the format from being an advisory committee to a commission, ensures diversity of tribal representation on the commission, and adds more members to increase its effectiveness, and concentrates the commission to make recommendations to the Department of Justice and Interior. Before we turn to consideration of the bills, I'm going to turn to Vice Chairman Udall.